Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone in between, Jason, welcome back to another tier list. Look at this. You'll love tier lists. These are the most viewed videos on my channels that aren't memes, so you're gonna keep getting them. No, it's not just because these get views that I make them. I make these because I like talking about my opinion that I think is correct. No, with that said, so recently there's been a new ban list. I think between my last two tier lists, there's actually been two ban lists. There's been a set release. There's been two new events. So there's just been new cards, updates for old decks, all that stuff, whatever. Obviously, we're not just going to go over, oh, here's every single change that's happened between here and now. No, we're going to talk about the decks that I think are good and bad in Rush. Now, you might notice from my tier list, if you watch my other ones, please watch the other videos on my channel, that I have changed the tiers again. So now, I've changed the tiers to be meta playable, good on ladder, has potential, fun but not great, and do not play. The big reason I changed the tiers here is because I've spent a lot of time in the previous tier list going over like what I mean when I put a certain deck in like each place, but I really want the tiers to speak for themselves so you know when I put it there what that means. So I'm just gonna go over these right here now. Meta playable, what I mean by meta playable is I think this deck will do well in a tournament environment. Something like maybe the Challenger Cups if those ever come back for Rush. Something like, I know, I believe other content creators host tournaments. You know, honestly speaking, I'd love to host one myself, but I don't have much of a crazy active community to do that. Comment down below if you want to see me host a tournament. And that's basically the idea for the meta playable slot. I could have wrote tournament like playable here, but tournament wouldn't look good. It like cuts off. Next is good on ladder. This is like, so previously I would put decks like Cyber Dragon in the very top tier, but it's generally power level wise below other decks. This new tier here is specifically for like Cyber Dragon, where the decks that are really good at ladder are pretty easy climbs to King of Games will go here, even if they're not like tournament viable. Has potential. These are decks that are just like missing like pieces of support we haven't gotten yet, or maybe they don't really have a skill that works well, or maybe even that we might know that they have new things coming soon. Fun but not great. This one is for like there's a lot of decks that I talk about in my videos and like my reviews of decks or my just general gameplay stuff. Like there are decks I find a whole lot of fun but aren't really that good. So that's what this category is for. The idea is you can play these decks to King of Games, but they're not going to be that easy. And then do not play. There are some older decks that I've seen people like get back into, give other shots, or maybe some newer decks that have a weird gimmick that I kind of just established the do not play category just to say, listen, if you don't have these decks, if you have these decks, it's fine. But if you don't really like bother picking them up. And now to start off, the very first deck I want to talk about is one of my favorite decks to play in this game. And it is fun, but not great. So this is Blaster's Inferno. If you're not familiar, I did just post a little while ago a full breakdown on how to play Blaster's Inferno, kind of like showing off a deck list and just playing some games. It's a really cool deck. It can actually like sneak in OTKs in some different like situations, but the problem with it is that it's just severely underpowered compared to the actual like meta decks. So it's fine on ladder, and I think it's very fun, which is why it's getting put into the fun not great category. Next up is Light Machine. I'm actually putting Light Machine has potential. They recently had a card that was limited 3 put to unlimited, and so previously if you wanted to play that card, it would conflict with Mirror Innovator, right? But I don't think the kind of like flow and style of Light Machine is that great into the current meta, but there could still obviously be either more unlimits or new support released for the deck that could push up a little bit more. It's honestly within the same category as fun, but it has like a higher ceiling than something like Blaster's Inferno can get. Next up, I'm gonna go, so there's a couple decks down here. I should mention there's a couple decks down here that I've broken down into different variants. So you might see some cards and you're like, why is there Dragiastar and Dragias? They do represent different decks. Let me say that. So now that we're up to Dragiastar, let me actually go ahead. I'm gonna put Dragiastar on good on ladder. I think Dragiastar is a really strong deck, and excluding the new support, this version of the deck is not about the Miraculous version. That has gonna have its own slot, okay? But this is just pure, you want to turbo into Dragiastar F and just swing for a whole bunch of damage. I think that deck specifically, with all the new support like Star Replacer and things like that, I think that deck easily clears King of Games. Not only do I think that, I did almost the entirety of my King of Games run with this deck. So it's speaking from experience when I put this deck up to here. Next up, Monarchs. Monarchs is strange. So it's here because there was also an unlimiting for Monarchs, but it's still not great. I'm going to put it in has potential. I think if we could get a decent, like some kind of new engine of 1000 defense guys, or maybe the other half of the Rush exclusive Monarchs, or maybe some of the other Monarchs that already exist that haven't been printed into Duel Links yet, maybe then it could do something a little more. But as it stands, the current version people play is Blue Eyes Monarchs, and that's just fine. But I'm hoping for more of a pure Monarchs to get more support, hopefully soon, to actually do something. Next up, we got Build Dream. This is another deck I actually have a guide on my channel. So this came out with the previous set, not the newest one, the previous one, all those cool new support cards and everything. And this deck is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not like crazy good, but I still like it. I think the effect of the fusion monster here, Build Dream, is really strong and kind of like makes the entire deck worth it. A pretty consistent pop 2 monsters is really strong as well. Just having the big attacking swings with the field spell and these guys, the fusion guys, it's really nice. Next up, so this Dragias that I'm putting here on Good and Ladder is representing aggro, or like Dragias Turbo. Basically, this is the bread and butter of Rush. This is like, you might just run to a guy playing a pile of cards that just has like 1500 dudes in Dragias and you lose. It's like, hey, what are you gonna do? It's strong, it's still Good and Ladder, it can still hit King of Games. But not like crazy meta. You're not gonna clean up a tournament, but you could definitely do King of Games with it. Next up, I have 3 decks I'm all gonna put along with each other. It's Dark Magician, Miss Mutton, and a Secret Order Worms. So all 3 of these decks, like I just called it Secret Order Worms, these all 3 revolve around using Secret Order to do some kind of like gimmicky thing with a boss monster, but they don't really have a unique skill that really facilitates their gameplay style. You're just kind of like hoping to sack the Secret Order so you can like stop play the game. Dark Magician, yeah, it can like search Dark Magician or like DMG, but the problem is it's just not enough compared to a deck like Dragiastar or something that can just search like the important pieces, the really crazy pieces. And Miss Mutton doesn't even have a skill. People still play it. You might notice all 4 decks I put in fun are just like Secret Order decks that you just really want to sack Secret Order. Blaster's Inferno is a little better than the rest, but let's be real. They're all kind of like the same kind of deck. Next up is Insects. So this one specifically represents the insects deck. This is the things like, it has all those big higher level insects that have like actual attack stats. There is a version of insects that's playing guys with no like attack stats. This is not about them. This is not about them. This is about the really like stronger guys. Now, so I was looking through Duel Links meta to kind of see like what decks people are playing, to try to kind of figure out what I should include here, and I saw Buster Blader got King of Games and someone spitted it. I'm putting that in do not play. I don't think Buster Blader is very good. I have a Buster Blader deck built. It's pretty bad. It's not really anything at all. Like, maybe it's a little bit better now that dragons are running around a whole bunch, but nah. Especially not the version I saw on Duel Links meta. No, it ain't it, Chief. It ain't it. Speaking of decks you shouldn't play, Yami Ruler. I think the recent limiting of Star Restart is actually a really big hit to Yami Ruler, and I think it's pretty much killed the Yami Ruler version of Warrior specifically. There are plenty of other versions of Warrior decks you can still play, but this version that wants to floodgate the opponent with Yami Ruler and the Yami Ruler fusion, nope, do not play it. Do not buy into it. Next up, Cybers. Cybers is actually also decently good at ladder. So my previous King Games grind was with the Dragon Star deck, like I said. One before that, Cybers. And it was, listen, being able to just turbo out two tribute monsters for basically free, or just keep like mass lowering the opponent's stats, it turns out that's really good. And it still cleans up on ladder. As well, sometimes you just open Yggdrago and win the game on the spot. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like they say, oh, this dude just loaded with up with Cybers. Put Yggdrago in his hand. Activate the secret skill. Just put Yggdrago in his hand. And there it goes. Next up, Miragios. I'm actually putting this in meta playable. So, listen. I never thought there'd be a day I would put this thing, of all things, into meta playable. But holy, has it been putting up results in like, I think like tournaments on ranked ladder. So many people are just like jamming this. I know I was playing I play on the King of Games ladder just to test decks. I was getting my ass cleaned by Miragios. Like, actually just completely dumpstered it by it over and over again. I couldn't believe it. And I was playing it. I was playing it too. I was testing the deck. And it was just beating me to death. You know, it's pretty good. It's actually pretty good. Speaking of meta playable, Metarion. Hey, it's still up here. The only hit Metarion's had recently is Star Restart to 3. And guess what? They're not playing any other 3s. And they just got basically mini graceful charity that's not once per turn in the most recent events. So they're only getting stronger. Of course, yeah, you have to find a way to kind of like get the level 5 Snake Eye into your deck to actually make the fusions. But let's be real. You only need to resolve it like once and you're already way ahead on the opponent, right? Following up, now let's talk a little fun. We got Harpies. Harpies is actually still decently playable. So obviously it's not, I'm putting in fun but not great specifically because the consistency of Harpies is still really good, but their ceiling is so low that if you run into a meta deck that's just kind of like got its stuff going, you're probably just going to lose. But against lower tier decks, against like decks that brick, you're just going to clean them up. Speaking of old decks that I love, Thunder. Do not play Thunder. Do not play Thunder. Thunder's just, it's really it's like power crept to hell and back. It really just not good. And the new support, no. Hands Ray Deslio specifically here doesn't even work with the Thunder skill. Like, oh, thanks. Another big guy to brick on who doesn't even get you anything with the skill. Nope. Get him out. Fusion's unplayable. Don't even bother. Now we got Light Galaxy. Good on ladder. It's really good on ladder. I think there's always going to be a space for a deck like Light Galaxy that can just do an explosive play of putting a whole bunch of damage on board and do piercing. So it's always going to have a really decent place. Speaking of decks that do exactly that, Dark Galaxy. Dark Galaxy has all the benefits of Light Galaxy, but way more consistency on the piercing, and it's got burning, and it's got a whole bunch of other crazy things that puts it into meta playable. I think the deck who are most likely to see in a tournament environment might be Dark Galaxy, There's some other things you'll probably see, but I think Dark Galaxy, just for how simple it is and how explosive it can be, it's probably going to be one of the most represented in a tournament environment. Now I got Blue Eyes, Blue Eyes, Blue Eyes, Blue Eyes, Blue Eyes. Yeah. So Blue Eyes had some unlimits happen, but the same way I talked about Monarchs, Blue Eyes kind of has less potential than it. So I'm putting Blue Eyes down and don't play. It's also, you have to just buy structures to even play Blue Eyes in the first place. So you're kind of like spending money on this. It's not worth it. It's just genuinely not worth it. Flying up, we got Psychics. Psychics, hey. This deck got slaughtered by the ban list, but guess what? It's still really strong. Unfortunately, it is still really strong. I hate to tell you that, but it's true. It's true. Listen. Candy Live, summon Prima Guitar from grave, buff everyone on the field, or Candy Live, pay 2k, put everyone down to 0 is super strong. Second effect specifically, pay 2k, put guys to 0, is so strong, it's why Miragios is really strong. Miragios also just puts guys to 0 attack and then punches over them till you're dead. Like, yeah, they lost Jump Check, but what they gained the super sacky kind of mill, rhythmical with divergence, throw away your back row, then make you mill it so they draw a card. I honestly think that might be a little bit. It's not bad. Okay, it can't be better than Jump Check revealing 2 back row, but it is kind of strong that now you can out the back row and just draw a card. Which, let's be real, you could always do that. But people just play Jump Check because Jump Check was just that good. Thankfully, that was, limited out of the format. Speaking of good on ladder, that's even a good non sequitur. I just keep saying the same non sequitur for the entire time. Or what sequitur? Non sequitur? I'm rambling, but it's not even going to be in the video. Anyway, Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon's the face of good on ladder. That's why I just snuck him in the front. The exact reason I would used to call the game its Tier 0 format in favor of Sidra is just because you see it on the ladder all the time. The deck is basically free to play, and you just see it over and over and over again, no matter what rank you are. It's Cyber Dragon this, Cyber Dragon that, And it's really good on ladder. It's crazy good on ladder. A Cyber Twin with an Ancient Gear Golem standing next to it is insanely strong, and it's super hard to out. So this one's always going to be such a house on ladder that it gets its own spot right here next to the little text. Good on ladder. It's the king of ladder. Next up, Red Boost Dragon. So this is a new card from the most recent deck build set. I'm putting it in good on ladder because I've been playing this on ranked. I've been playing this in the King of Games ladder. It's actually a lot of fun. It's fun and it's good. The Boost Dragon himself being a really consistent burn, the skill is insanely powerful, so they rightfully nerfed it with the twice per duel effect. But being able to force the opponent into a situation where they just lose the Bluetooth Dragon is kind of insane. The deck has so much manipulation of the opponent's attack values that just being able to do that puts it at a crazy high skill. It's there for the same reason that I put Cybers in this section. It can do basically the recursion and the free tributes are just the main deck for Red Boost, and then the skill also just lowers attack the same as the Cyber skill. So it's really cool. It's really cool. Another one for the fun but not great pile. We got Max Overload. It hasn't changed at all, but I've seen people picking it up again. It's definitely a really fun deck, so I can assume people are jumping into playing it again just to kind of have fun, I personally do really love this deck. I think our big guy here, Magnus, King of the Computers, is so cool. I love watching his animation, so I'm always going to give this deck a little bit of time on ladder as I play, just so I can try and get the animation to play. It's such a jump scare when the opponent has you low, or you have your opponent low and they're on max overload, and they just go, okay, cool, Magnum goes to 8k and punches over your boss monster and you just die. Next up, Ant Rebellion Insects. No, don't play this one. This one, maybe don't play. It's way too gimmicky. You just get murder on the crackback half the time, so it's not. Speaking of things not worth it, the Max Excavator worms. It's as good as you can to sack the Max monster, let's be real. But honestly, there's two much better and a lot more fun versions of worms I would say play over this, which is why I'm putting in do not play, because I'm saying don't play this one, play the other two. Okay? Heroes has potential. Hero is going to be the king of has potential until the rest of the hero support is released. The heroes have crazy support that's just not released. So this deck will pretty much always be in has potential until we get those cards, and then maybe it can go higher, or maybe it'll go lower because they realize, oh my god, these hero cards are crazy, we have to ban this stuff. Next up, Kime Luna. So this is the other warrior deck I was talking about. This is Kime Luna, or some people call it the Celestial Maidens. And I think this deck is actually really cool. So it doesn't play the Yami Ruler. Actually, I think after almost talked about a leak for a second there. So this deck doesn't need to play Yami Ruler as it stands. This deck actually plays the Kime Luna and the other big warrior guy, and basically just do a decent amount of controlling, whether it's popping the opponent's monsters with Kime Luna into Kime Tarasu, or the Kime Luna just being a beatdown tool, because she is just really strong as a beatdown tool. I think keep your eye on this deck, just because if we can get some more warrior support, or some more like fairy support, maybe just something to keep the Celestial Seamstress in rotation, this deck will be really good. Next up, Earth Machine. Don't play Earth Machine. I almost want to call it fun. I can't. I think it's fun, but you might find it miserable if you try playing it. It's just not great. It's just not great. But Vinari flipping 3 heads on the opponent and swinging over the entire board is a lot of cool fun. However, if you want to swing over the opponent's entire board, may I introduce you to Miragias, a deck that can do that as well. Anyway, next up, Seven's Paladin. Seven's Paladin has potential. So I was going to put it up here in Good and Ladder, but I'm putting it in has a potential because there is so much unreleased spellcaster support that would make this deck broken. That's just not released in the game. So that's why I do think it's Good and Ladder, but it would be even better if it had the rest of its support. And finally, last but not least, we got Yakutu Megami. This is actually representing Megami insects, which I think is fun but not great. Let's be real. If you watched my video on this deck, it looks good. It's fun. It was a deck that at the time I was struggling to even describe it to people, but I genuinely think that this deck was a lot of fun in the long run. It has all the same benefits as a deck like the Red Boost, like Cyburst, where you're just constantly modulating the attack of the opponent's monsters, so you're pretty much always winning out combat that way. And then it also has the added bonus of being able to just surprise the opponent with a pop 2, or something like Insect Rampage for another pop, just like wipe the opponent's board and just go face for a lot of damage. But at the end of it all, it's very bricky, it's very gimmicky, but it is fun, but not great, which is why it goes in that game. And that's the list. There you go. There it is. First thing, I think adding all these extra tiers that kind of like explain themselves kind of helped me go through this a little bit faster than how fast I would usually like go through one of these lists. But anyway, with all that said, if you disagree with my list or think I left the deck off, go ahead and leave that in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and all that other good stuff. I don't have an outro, so I just said whatever. Is that fine? It's fine, right? Bye. Goodbye.